Hey folks, Scott from MSP Navigator. I caught up with a guy called Ben Spector. Now he is an ex-MSP business owner. He owned his own MSP and sold it. And he is now working for a vendor in the MSP space. The vendor is called Zomentum, and they are a sales accelerator platform. That's the only way that I can describe them. So in this demo, we're going to actually go into with Ben what Zomentum is and what the actual value it brings for MSP IT business owners. So hope you enjoyed the video. I went into this demo completely clueless to what the product was. So this will give you a really good idea of what the product is and the time that it can save you when it comes to sales within your MSP. So check it out. I am actually coming from I have no idea. I know you showed me, Ben, that last Excel document last time we spoke, where it fills a gap. So I don't know if that's where you want to start with it, and then we can maybe dive into the actual solution itself. But give us a brief explanation of what is Zomentum. I know it's something to do with MSP sales, but apart from that, I've absolutely no idea.
Sure. So it probably does help to just have a quick recap look at that spreadsheet I showed you last time, just to show where Zomentum fits. So there's a lot of quoting tools out there on the market that really just put together a quote and a proposal. That's all they're built to do. And I think the key thing to understand about Zomentum is that it is a full sales CRM behind that proposal capability. So in this diagram, I've mapped on the left the typical stages through an MSP's business, and along the top, the best tool for the job. So when a new suspect fills in a form on the website, something like that, attends a webinar, expresses some vague interest, becomes a subscriber, the best tool for that's going to be your marketing automation. So that's going to be something like HubSpot, Infusionsoft, Keep, ActiveCampaign. And that's then going to take you through getting them to being a lead, marketing qualified, sales qualified, and identifying that you have an opportunity. Once you get to that opportunity stage, the marketing automation tools kind of fall away. They've done their job. They've got you to the point where someone said, hey, I'm ready for a quote. Problem is, you don't, as an MSP, it's a very complicated business, and the quote for two different businesses are going to be totally different. So the first thing you need to do is understand what that opportunity actually looks like. So when you drop into Zomentum, you can then take them through the assessment phase, getting the quote and proposal together. Obviously, you need to do the assessment to understand what it should look like. I think a lot of MSPs get rather stuck spending a lot of time that they shouldn't really be spending during that pre-sales stage.
Okay.
So, sending in a senior consultant for 2 days with rapid fire tools is not a good idea when you're not yet being paid.
So this is almost like the qualification. So just qualifying the lead.
It's beyond qualifying it. I mean, you could use the assessments to do the qualification stage, but also if you're going to put together some kind of 20, 30 point framework that you want to use to start realigning that prospect with your typical roadmap. So keeping that assessment pretty high level. You're not interested in looking at individual firmware versions on switches. You're interested in looking at, is the network being maintained? Is two-factor there? Is there a pandemic response plan? All of those really high-level things that an MSP would be taking responsibility for long-term.
Okay.
And then which helps to demonstrate to the customer when you send the proposal that actually you've understood their needs and show them kind of where the gaps are. So then Zomentum is going to help you put together that quote proposal. It's going to get it negotiated, and you're going to get a one e-signed document, that proposal back or contract signed and ready to go. Once it's signed, you then want to drop into the PSA. So we've got integrations with Autotask, ConnectWise Manage, Kaseya BMS, Synchro, and just about to launch Halo PSA as well.
Okay.
And then your PSA is going to take you from that signed document phase through the project planning, the onboarding, the management, the support, the billing, and generating the invoices. But then the PSAs, they don't file your taxes, they don't do your payroll. So then you're going to drop into your accounting software, for example, QuickBooks or Xero, to do that last bit. And then the red box represents the QBR process. So during the management phase of the client, you want to keep periodically looping them back up to the assessment phase and taking them through that sales cycle. And that should be a continuous re-engagement with the sales cycle.
So your quarterly sort of business review type setup, is that a manual thing that, you know, your account managers need to go and move it from? Is that a two-way sync between the systems? I think that's where I'm getting at with this. Or is it just you start fresh in the assessment phase again in Zomentum?
I'll show you that once we get into the platform itself. And then, sorry, you had a question?
Yeah, just before we come away from this spreadsheet you've got here, I think it's awesome that you've got this listed in a spreadsheet, by the way. You're obviously a finance guy. You're using Excel.
Do you know what? It was just the best tool for the job. I started mapping this out in my own head for my own purposes, and then realized that everyone I speak to, outside of Zomentum, has no real understanding of where it fits because there aren't any other tools doing it. So first thing you need to do is explain to the customer where it actually fits in their business. You know, they know they've got HubSpot, they know what that does. They've got PSA, they know what Autotask does. They've got QuickBooks, they know what that does. But where Zomentum actually fits is usually a real mind boggle for them. So I just created this to help demonstrate that point.
So the question I've got about the red or the that Zomentum column, and this is just some value here for our audience. Where do you see most MSPs getting stuck in this this process, going from prospect to one?
I think they get stuck because they don't have a tool to even visualize that process. You know, the PSAs all have some very basic opportunity management functionality. You can put together a quote in Autotask. The quote itself looks terrible. It's not something you put in front of your customer. And the visualization of the sales process is completely missing. You know, in both ConnectWise and Autotask, the approach to showing your opportunity pipeline is quite literally just a list of opportunities that you can filter. So when we switch over to the Zomentum screen, I'll show you how that comes to life with a Kanban board that makes it very easy to visualize. It also, the PSAs don't really encourage any kind of process in that sales process. And I think most MSPs come really unstuck because they are tech lovers. They are not fundamentally salespeople. And they need a lot of encouragement and help and automation to actually drive a sale forwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. So is Zomentum then, is it classed as a CRM because it's visualizing that part of the process, or what would you fall under?
So our CEOs have coined a new category, sales acceleration platform. And really what that encompasses is a full sales CRM with quoting capabilities, with the VCIO QBR capabilities. We're in the process of launching a marketplace for solutions that goes alongside it. So it really is an end-to-end solution for the entire sales problem that MSPs typically have.
Okay. All right. Good to know. And we're in it now. I can see it here on the screen.
Yeah. So I've just loaded here. This is, I guess, what you'd consider your home screen in Zomentum, which is a Kanban view of your opportunities. Along the top, we've got the stages. So there's the columns represent the stages. The stages can be completely customized. So you'd map the stages to your own processes. You can also create multiple pipelines. So if your project sales process, your managed sales process are completely different, which is likely, then you might want different stages within those pipelines. And the same for managing your QBR process, for example. So And then those stages would all be mapped to your PSA. If you've got a PSA, mapped to your PSA stages. So when you move stuff around in Zomentum, it makes the corresponding changes in the PSA. So at a very raw level, it's a brilliant way of visualizing the data that you probably already have in your PSA.
Yeah, bring it to life. Okay.
So within the platform, then each of these cards represents an opportunity. We can see that the name of the opportunity, the client, the estimated value, the expected close date, and whether there are any activities. One of the things I really like is this rotten label that gets applied. So you could configure that something in the prospect stage that hasn't been touched for, say, 14 days needs to be flagged because, why hasn't it moved? Why hasn't anyone touched it?
And I'm assuming that you set that within each column, that sort of rotting decay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we look at my sales pipeline, we can customize the stages. These are the stages that I've built out. You can also assign a rotting age. So I've said for these 4 stages, 20 days untouched is rotting. I don't know who came up with the rotting terminology, but I kind of love it.
You know what I've seen, from what I've seen just now so far, it looks very similar to another product that I use called Pipedrive, which is just a CRM. I've been using that for a few years, and I can see the similarities here in this. They have what are known as pipes, and yeah, I can see the similarities here, and they use that terminology. So I think it's fairly common terminology.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Pipedrive, that is an excellent example of something, to understand what Zomentum really does. The problem with Pipedrive is that it doesn't have any features which are built specifically for MSPs.
Yeah,
Pipedrive, it doesn't integrate with your distributors. It doesn't understand SaaS services. So it just doesn't have the tools that an MSP needs. Great for tracking sales opportunities, but as soon as you become, as soon as you're trying to operate an MSP, you need it to be able to integrate with your PSA. You need it to integrate with everything else you're using.
Yeah,
and that's where Pipedrive kind of falls apart quite quickly.
I can totally relate to that, because you know what I was doing about an hour before we caught up here, Ben? I was in Pipedrive trying to get an Airtable to speak to Pipedrive. So for anyone that registers onto MSP Navigator, get that into Pipedrive somehow, and it's becoming difficult. So it makes perfect sense that you have all of these integrations with all the MSP solutions that are already out there, out the box by the sounds of it. So
yeah,
okay, no, I'm liking what I'm seeing here.
Good.
Yeah, so what's the most common questions that the customers come to you with before they're going to buy this solution?
So I think the most common questions tend to be around the process. They're used to creating their quotes directly in the PSA and sending them to the customer. And there are a lot of questions around, well, if we start implementing Zomentum, is it going to mess up our existing processes? And the answer to that really is no, because you've got the integrations there. Going back to my spreadsheet, the forwards flow of information, if you start in the tool at the top of that process, everything then flows down the process. So, when you take that prospective sales call, the first thing you do is use Zomentum. You'd create the prospect in Zomentum, you'd create the opportunity, and then you'd start working on that opportunity. So if we go ahead and just create an opportunity, sort of demo, if I can type today, demo with Scott. I really can't spell today. Pop it on a test company in the sales pipeline. We can categorize the type. So we might say that it's a consulting services opportunity. It's prospect at the moment because we've just taken a call. I'm the owner. I'm also the primary contact. The expected close date, just pop that, say 2 weeks away from now. Close probability of 50%. And that's probably all the information we know at this stage. So go ahead and create the opportunity. We then have that opportunity card. It's integrated with your Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, so it's going to pull in emails related to what you're doing. It's going to be able to create meetings that synchronize with your 365 calendar.
Excellent. Okay.
So then the next thing we've got, yeah, sorry. The next thing we've got, this is the opportunity view. We could go to the client. You've got all the information that you'd expect to see. So again, that email log, various bits of details about the client. You can store the contacts on the client here. Obviously looks a bit of a mess because it's all demo data. You then have the opportunities associated with the client and any documents. So the documents can be your assessment documents, they can be quotes and proposals, they can be contracts, they can be QBRs. Any questions?
So there's a lot of data in there, Ben.
Yeah.
And I guess it's something, you know, it doesn't matter what system that you're using. One question I've got is round about the data entry side of things. Like if there's MSPs that are working with their sales team, maybe they've got, you know, a number in the sales team. Have you seen any best practices in regards to getting that sales team to use the platform?
I think it's a good question, and yeah, I think processes need to be driven from the top within the business. So,
I'm going back because I know that you used to own an MSP, and I've seen this previously, in any space actually. It doesn't matter. Getting salespeople to enter data into a system can sometimes be a difficulty.
Yeah, I think the easier you make it for people and the more process driven, the more likely they are to follow those processes. But ultimately, that's down to you as the MSP owner to train your people and encourage them to use the systems properly. Okay.
Good to know. So that leads me on to reporting on the system. Like the output of this, you know, if we are, let's say we've got our weekly sales meeting and we're looking at everyone's, I'm assuming we're looking at their boards, or are we reporting on activity? How would we manage that?
I mean, you can report on anything you want. Out of the box, we provide about 10 or so default templates. So you can report on activities, for example, activity count by opportunity stage. You can compare the closing ratios between, you know, what's been won and what's been lost. You can have a look at your overall sales funnel reports. And then once, you know, if you start with one of these stock reports, you can then customize it, filter it down.
Can you drill down by like salesperson?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we filter this down by opportunity owner.
How's Ben doing this week?
Yeah, probably not brilliantly.
Come on.
Not doing very well at all. But yeah, you know, you can use any metric, which could be the opportunities, it could be the activities, anything like that. You can then group it by different things. So you could group it by owner, you could group it by stage, you could group it by that opportunity type, for example, if you just want to look at the consulting services opportunities, and then you can filter it beyond there.
Okay, good to know, because I almost see that, you know, the people that are probably watching this, you know, they're making a decision on purchasing Zomentum or, you know, following up with yourself, Ben. It's probably the same people that are needing those types of weekly reports and what their sales people are doing. So that's why I asked that question. It's like, okay, we need that information because that's make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing and it's in the system.
Yeah. Yeah, the reporting is really easy. The default templates are very useful, but also it's really easy to just create custom reports. You know, the only three things you need to know is what metric are you wanting to report on, how do you want to group it, and what do you want to filter it by. And if you can define those three things, you can easily create your own reports.
Okay. Do we want to touch a little bit on the actual integration side of things? I know that's like the selling point of this is the fact that it integrates with all the other sort of vendor products in the MSP space. How do those integrations actually work? From the HubSpot side, and then from the other side, when things are going out of Zomentum to PSA, is it a Zapier connection or is it something else?
No, so they're full native integrations. If we have a look here, so when it comes to the PSAs, so we do have Zapier capabilities. So if there's anything that we don't have a native integration for, you can create Zaps to do it. We've got the integration with Etilize, which is part of the platform. Etilize is a product database that all of the major manufacturers feed their parts into. Okay. So if you're looking for example, a Dell laptop with an i5 processor, 256 hard drive, for example, Etilize will return that information. And we then take those part codes off to all of your integrated distributors to return the real-time stock and pricing. For the PSAs, then we've got Autotask, ConnectWise Manage, Kaseya BMS, Synchro, and Repair Shopper. So when you're creating all of your accounts or clients, your contacts, your opportunities, and your quotes are going to be synced to those platforms. I've got my demo environment integrated with Autotask because that's the one I've known for many, many years. In terms of distributors at the moment in the UK, we've got Ingram, Tech Data, and West Coast, all of which we've got integrated. So I can show you how that process looks when you're wanting to find hardware parts. For the US, we've got Ingram, Tech Data, D&H, Synex. In Australia, we've got Dicker Data. And then some of these work in various other countries. So if Ingram are operating in Belgium, for example, or Canada, then it will also work in those regions.
Okay.
And then on the marketing side of things, we're integrating with Infusionsoft and HubSpot.
Okay. Is there any scope for ActiveCampaign on that marketing side?
Yeah, it will be the next marketing integration we do. We're starting to see quite a reasonable uptick in requests for ActiveCampaign. Infusionsoft seems to have died something of a death over the last couple of years in terms of popularity. A lot of MSPs now moving to HubSpot and ActiveCampaign. As you
I don't think it's even called Infusionsoft anymore. Keep, I think it's called now. They rebranded.
It's very confusing. I think if you're on Keep's Max Classic, it's what used to be Infusionsoft, which is in no way integrated with Keep Max. I can't keep up. Keep.
Okay. All right. All right. I think if we could go into the distribution hardware lookup, that would be pretty cool to see. I think that would be really useful to see in this demo.
Sure. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a quick quote for a new laptop for Scott. This was going to be associated with that opportunity we just created, the demo with Scott. Select a template. Then we've got a load of global templates which are provided out of the box to all users. You can also go ahead and create your own templates from scratch or clone the existing templates into something, and then edit it yourself. There's also the capability to upload any existing templates you have. So if you've got Word documents, Excel, PDFs, whatever that you're currently sending your documents out in, you can upload those to the platform, and our support team will rebuild those for you as Zomentum native templates.
I was going to ask that, is it a preferred file format, but it's more of a manual step then, is it?
Yeah, it's a manual step. I think we've toyed with automated imports, but anyone that's ever used any platform will probably know that automated template import is at best a disaster.
Yeah.
So for the time being, we're just doing that manually.
Cool.
So I'm just going to use this simple quote template and create the create the document off this template. So obviously you've got merge tags for the templates so that you don't need to fill in any information manually. It just gets pulled in from the CRM. And then the important bit here for the quoting is the quote block. If we go to add a product, we've then got two catalogs. Your self catalog is the one that's that you add things to manually in Zomentum. That's also synced from your PSA. So if you've already got a load of products in Autotask or ConnectWise, for example, they're going to get pulled into Zomentum. We've also then got the Utilize catalog, which is that search engine for hardware parts. So if we search, for example, for a Dell, there's probably going to be absolutely nothing in stock, but give it a go. For a Dell Latitude, this is then going to return part codes with all the descriptions and images from the manufacturers. Given current stock levels, I'm just going to tick this exclude out of stock, see if there is anything actually available matching that search. And obviously this is now going out to Ingram, Tech Data and West Coast, because those are the three I've got integrated, and it's going to pull back my real prices and the actual stock availability from those distributors. So if we look at this particular model, for example, we can see that Ingram have got 119 of them at that price and Tech Data have got 167 at that price.
Excellent.
So it may, this again touches on, compared to things like Pipedrive, which don't have any MSP specific functions.
It's a massive time saver.
Yeah, it's massive. I would say probably at least an hour or two a day in my MSP was spent trying to find that evasive.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, you're making £7 margin on it, and yet somehow you manage to spend an hour trying to find it and order it.
Okay, all right. So this is actually where the real value is of the platform. That's where I see it, anyways. Just this huge time saver right here.
Yeah. So if I go ahead and add one of these products to the quote, it's going to bring in the name, the description, the specifications, any product images from Utilize. We can then go ahead and customize it.
Okay, I was going to add that. Can you edit the description? Because I know when I was doing these types of quotes for laptops, I would always leave the spec fairly bare. So that
try not to get price shocked.
You had these, there were certain people you would send quotes to and they're like, I wonder if I can get that cheaper somewhere else. So they would take the spec and try and Google to find it somewhere cheaper. So I used to always just leave it kind of generic.
Yeah, what I really like about the way Utilize returns the results is it's highly structured. So if you add an HP ProBook and a Dell Latitude from Utilize, the way the data is structured is going to be exactly the same. So it's going to give you the product name, it's going to show you the resolution, the processor, the memory, all in exactly the same order. So it makes it quite easy to then just strip it back if you only want to provide, say the processor, the memory and the hard drive, which I guess is all you'd provide. But yes, you can edit that. You can also tweak your markups and margins. So on my account, I've got a default markup of 25% set up. So any products I add will default to that, which I think is pretty typical markup.
Yeah.
The other thing we can do, we can start to introduce options on these quotes, which is really nice. So if we also add an HP ProBook, for example, I still really can't type today. Just go through that exact same process. Add that one. Oh, that's not in stock. That one. So here you can see how structured that description data is. Looks exactly the same for the different models. But then what we can say is that the customer, they're only allowed one choice. So it gives you that either or capability to select between models, or all products are optional. So they could then select multiple. We can allow the customer to edit their own quantities, and we might set quantity limitations. So we could say that they have to buy a minimum of 2, maximum of 5, and they're only allowed one choice. So then they can only choose the ProBook, and they can order between 2 and 5, for example. So you can put a lot of control in there. We could also then add a section for, say, the monthly services. And for here, I'm just going to add from my self catalog, going to add an antivirus or Microsoft 365 license, for example, Office 365 E5, that'll do. And we're going to say 15 licenses there. So if we go to then preview that document as the customer, oh, I don't know, has that switched? Can you see?
I can see the preview. Nope, it's gone now.
No, anymore, you can't. There we go. Try that. Yeah. So this is the preview as the customer would see it. We've got those radio buttons to choose between the laptops. They can go ahead and edit the quantities they want. So we can choose 5 of that laptop. We're also showing them all of the monthly services. We're showing them a nice breakdown of subtotal of the one-time costs and then the monthly costs, and can request that the customer signs it when they're accepting it. So, if you're sending the managed services proposal, you can put all of your upfront stuff. If you're selling them new firewalls and networking kit, all of your managed services, you can give them options, upgrade options, put all of your terms of business in there, the scope of works, and get it signed off.
You could, you could have all that put together. You could actually go through this together, helping them choose the best option. Okay, love it.
Yeah, and then you can't see it on the preview, but this would be a comments box. So once you've sent it to the customer, they can actually type comments or questions in there. You'll then be able to see them on the sales rep side of things and reply directly on the document. So it keeps a log of any questions, makes it really easy for them to ask, hey, this laptop's an extra £200, is it really worth it? Those kind of questions. It gives you that ease of communication.
Excellent. Okay. All right. No, that I love this feature. As I said, I think it's probably a massive time saver. What we missed, Ben? I know we've been chatting for the last 40+ minutes now. So if there's, don't want to keep everyone too long here, but what have we not covered?
Sure. So I think the last 2 things that are really worth looking at would be the assessments and the QBRs. So if we go ahead and create an assessment, select template. So we've got a couple of global templates, working on various others at the moment. We've got just released this CIS template. We're going to be releasing Cyber Essentials, NIST, some of the other HIPAA, for example, standards aligned stuff. And you can use this assessment in 2 places. You could either use it pre-sales, which is that high level kind of qualification type questions, but you can also use it post-sale to continuously monitor for that alignment with CIS, for example. So if you run this process every couple of months and update what's changed. I'm just going to use this really basic demo sales assessment report, which is the pre-sale example. It's structured around 2 main elements. You've got the risk matrix with the risk score, and you've got a table of the issues. So the issues are grouped into categories. Here we've got 5 example categories. Each of the categories contains a couple of issues. So if we scroll down to the security section, for example, we're just looking at, is 2-factor authentication enabled? And we can provide some details and a recommendation, and also tag it by priority. Those priority tags are then going to dictate where it appears in the risk matrix and how that risk score is calculated.
So is the assessment something that you're going through with the prospect? Are you doing it on the screen with them, or is this something that they print out? How does it work?
No, so I think you'd run this as a back-end process. And MSPs, they're going to do it very differently. I would want to try and keep this to like a 30-minute interview style questionnaire. So I'm probably running through it with the business owner over the phone. You might go in person, sit down with them and run through it. And then you're going to come back to this format and update the update the document according to what you've discovered during that assessment. But really, this assessment is then what you would probably put in front of your solutions engineers to start really putting together what that solution looks like and help you as a sales rep to build the proposal.
Okay, it shows you how bad of a salesperson I actually was. That I was good at before you were showing me that. Like I was like, "What's an assessment?" But I'm going back to 2015 when cyber wasn't such a big thing as it is now. So yeah. Okay, that's. I told you you're going to get some really dumb questions out of this, Ben.
It's all right. There's a couple of neat new functions coming to this as well. So we're just about to launch a Microsoft 365 integration that's going to pull in various assessment points from the customer's Microsoft 365 tenant.
Okay.
So we can do pretty much a one-click automated assessment looking for those obvious vulnerabilities within 365. And that's then going to populate additional categories automatically. So Microsoft 365 identity, Microsoft 365 security, things like that, and show the relevant issues. We're also just started work on doing a kind of dark web and vulnerability assessment that again is going to pull in what I would describe as the high drama stuff that the client is going to be slightly concerned or bowled away by.
The emotional triggers.
The emotional triggers, exactly.
Okay.
So if we can show within a couple of clicks for the sales rep some breached password information, for example, some PII that's been found on the dark web, we can do some other external checks. We can look at DNS security, for example, have a quick look at website, whether it's HTTPS, those really obvious things that most MSPs are probably looking at to find the concerning areas that need to be resolved. Mm-hmm. And the more of those we can identify quickly and easily up front with minimal effort, the better this tool becomes.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Is there anything else we need to cover here, Ben?
Yeah, probably. So the very last bit I think would be the QBR framework.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Which is very similar to the assessments, but starts to give you an opportunity to talk about budgets and things. So if I go ahead and create QBR document, what you would do is you would create this ideal roadmap for either for all your clients or on a client by client basis, which becomes your starting point for the QBR. And then each time you run the QBR process, you just need to update the things that have changed. It's built around the same familiar concept of issues which are grouped into categories. You've got the risk matrix and you've got a risk score. But this time I crashed my system. There we go. This time the table presentation is slightly different. So it's a much more condensed version of the table. And we're starting to introduce target quarters, target years, and budgets to this. So for this client, for example, you might be saying that in Q1 of 2022, they need to invest in backup. We might set a budget here of, say, £10,000. So it helps you to set those expectations early on. And then when you drop your proposal in Q1 next year, they've budgeted for it, they're expecting it. A lot of MSPs, I think, do the QBR completely wrong. They focus it as being a technical roadmap discussion. They get excited about technology. The client doesn't care or get that. So what Zomentum helps to do is to refocus that QBR process as what it really should be, which is a sales and account management process.
Yeah.
So rather than running detailed security audits as part of that QBR, actually, you're going to sit down. Each line on this QBR should represent a sales opportunity, really. So when you come back from the QBR, let's say you had 20 things, or you've got 20 things on the roadmap. If in the process of that conversation, you identify that 3 of them are really hot ticket items they're ready to move forwards with, you can come back from the QBR meeting and create those as sales opportunities to actually track them properly through to completion. Speaking from personal experience, in my MSP, the QBR process fell apart all the time. We'd be really good about doing them with a new client for the first 6 months, but then they would get a bit disinterested, or we'd get a bit disinterested, and it just sort of fizzles away. This gives you a tool to be much more accountable, both internally and to your client, and also to hold your client accountable and make sure that they are aware of what the roadmap should be, not from a highly technical perspective, but framing it around the risk to their business. Here for the backup, for example, we're quite clearly showing them what the risk is to their business and what our proposed solution is. And that, to me, is what the QBR process really should be about.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you're preempting pricing in here. And again, this QBR, this is something that you would send before you go and meet, for you both to review in the meeting.
Yeah, you might take it with you and go through it during the meeting.
Okay.
I think a lot of QBRs are now happening online. COVID has definitely changed the way things are done. So this might be something that you do over a screen share. You might want to send it in advance. I think that a lot of sales coaches would probably tell you don't send anything in advance. Always take it with you, take the proposal with you, get ink on paper, etc., etc. But yeah, a lot of ways to skin it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, final question for you, Ben, before we run out of time. How much does Zomentum cost? I had a quick sneaky Google here, but what are we looking at from sort of doing business with you? How much are we looking at from a cost pricing perspective?
Sure. Typically, a conversation that the customer would need to have with one of our sales reps. In GB, the pricing is on the website. I don't know how well this video is going to age if we discuss pricing too much.
Okay.
But I think
structured.
It's very structured. There's currently 3 tiers: launch,
Okay.
expand, and growth. And
it's based on users, yeah.
So the basic license includes 2 users, and then there's an additional per user charge from there. Okay,
excellent. Okay, Ben, that's amazing. Thanks for your time today. I really appreciate this. How can people get in touch with you?
Feel free to connect with me personally on LinkedIn, or by email, ben@zomentum.com. Otherwise, if you're wanting to have a demo, speak to someone on the sales team, if you just go to zomentum.com, you can book a demo, get in touch with the sales team that way.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
No worries.